record on this computer. So hey everybody, greetings from Texas. And I am going to share my screen. And I know how to use this. This one. Okay. We're doing a TemplateTab webinar, right? I'm going to keep everything straight for me today. TemplateTab is the second thing that I ever coded, and it's very similar to the first thing I coded, and it's probably my favorite thing that I've ever coded, and it's something I use constantly. If you've taken online workshops from me, you know that I use this, and what it does is it takes a copy of a graphic organizer for each student on your roster, but in the same spreadsheet. I should have said that. So I'm just going to do a really quick demo of that to show you how quick and easy it is. I've got listofrandomnames.com, so I have some fake students. And all I have to do is I make a brand new Google Sheets. And I have already installed the add-on, no surprise. And I'm going to design some sort of a graphic organizer. So say I'm going to do like parts of speech, and I'm a math teacher, so I actually don't even know the parts of speech. So we're going to do parts of speech warm-up. And I want them to give me 3 nouns. And I'm going to highlight these yellow because I like to put your answer in there. Make it a little wider. Copy and paste this. I need 3 adjectives. I need 1 prepositional phrase. I literally have no idea what that is. I'm gonna make that wider. And this is a John Crippo thing. So what he says is, you don't teach each skill in isolation. Like, here's all the parts of speech, and we're gonna do them every day. Rep. Like, you're just gonna get good at it all at once. So then what he would do is insert a picture. So I'm just gonna go insert image in the cell. I merged one. And I'm gonna do photos. No, I'm gonna do Google image search for goats in a tree. There we go. Did you guys know goats climb trees? Like, who knew? Okay, so what he would do is he would give them a funny picture. Maybe he found something on Facebook. You know, some kids painted the TV or whatever. And so then they would look at it and do all the parts of speech, which I've done a very terrible job of setting up all the parts of speech, but it doesn't matter. I've made a graphic organizer. Are you with me? Okay. And so then you just go to the add-ons menu and TemplateTab. I'm going to set up the sheet. So whatever my graphic organizer is becomes the second sheet, and then inserts a sheet for you to paste your roster. Wait, dang it. See, I was being all clever because I copied it, and then I forgot that I had copied it. And I just paste my roster. So you then just go back to the TemplateTab, and you run TemplateTab, and it's going to copy that graphic organizer for each student onto the same spreadsheet. And then for me, I'd put this into Google Classroom, and I change, the default is students can view file, and then I change it to students can edit file. So then everyone has edit access to the same spreadsheet, because I'd rather hit myself in the head with a brick than open up 30 Google Docs. Like, that's just slow. Is giving every student an individual copy has 2 problems. I got to open each one of them, and it's just feedback slower. And number 2, the feedback burden is on me, when really, the person doing the work's the person doing the learning. And I love Catlin Tucker, who's always like, have the students do it. So when we're all in the same Google Slides and we're all in the same Google Sheets spreadsheet, then I can have the kids do some of the feedback, and then we can talk about each other's responses. So I try to assign myself less paperwork if possible, that I want everyone in the same one, or to use a quizzes that grades it for me or something. And I try to make where I make an individual copy per student 20% of the time or less. And who's this? Forgot to make some. There we go. Kathy, can I make you co-host? Would you let people in if people join in later? Sally, I'll make you co-host too.
Sure.
Thank you. Make sure they have a real name. Sometimes the
traffic right now. No major accidents or slowdowns around Asheville at the moment.
And let's take a live look outside from our rugged home camera on I-26.
All right. Okay. All right. So, questions so far? I'm going to have you do it. So what I need you to do first, so you're going to take it out of full screen in the Zoom and make it smaller, make the Zoom smaller. And you're going to have your internet browser. I use Chrome. I recommend, no, yeah, you don't have to have Chrome, but I recommend Chrome and whatever. Go to the internet. And so have that like 2/3 of your screen, and the Zoom is 1/3. And what you're going to do is make a new spreadsheet. So I do sheets.new. Okay, so everybody have a spreadsheet? Yeah. Okay. So then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the add-ons menu, and I just have so many of them, and you're going to go to get add-ons. Go to get add-ons. And here's a fun fact. You can type Alice Keeler and it'll come up, but we're going to type in TemplateTab. It's all one word. You see it's TemplateTab by Alice Keeler. I coded it. And so, of course, once you find it, you should install it. And then you should convince your Google Apps admin person to install it domain-wide. You see, like, it gives you the option, or mine would. Mine's already done. It has 2 buttons, one for domain install, one for individual install if you have permissions, which I do. So it should be, if you go to the add-ons menu, you should see where it says TemplateTab. Give me a.
Why do admins block so many things? Out of curiosity, I don't know.
It's easier than, you know, researching stuff. An overabundance of caution. I mean, it is possible for it to do bad things. These ones that have been put in the add-on store. So what happens when I code? You know, as soon as, if I'm coding a spreadsheet, I type spreadsheet app. If I'm coding Google Docs, I type document app. If I'm coding Google Drive, I type drive app. And the second I type any one of those, it has a default set of really scary looking permissions that I have no control over. And so what happens when I code something and then I submit it to Google, which I almost never do because it's such an awful, painful process, they first look at those permissions. They're like, because if I type drive app, it gives me access to your entire Google Drive, everything in it. I can add, delete, like all kinds of craziness. So you can see why that would be bad. And yeah, and so a lot of schools will block if the code has drive app in it. They're like, we just don't want to take the risk. Now, when I submit it to Google, they're not necessarily reading every line of my code. They're looking at what authorizations and some general things. But once I'm up, I can actually go in and update my code, make new versions. And so then nobody at Google will have seen my updates. So really, they're just kind of checking it out, but it's not so secure that your app's admin should just leave it wide open for everybody. I mean, it's not necessarily paranoia, to be honest. So you just want to make sure that what you're using is trusted, that, you know, it's not from, you know, like, oh, this is in Russian. I don't know who this Russian person is. It's people you trust and know. So anything by me, you should install it. I'm a teacher. Mom, just say yes. But this does not use drive app. And I actually used to have it where it would email the students the link to their tabs and put that out because it asked for extra permissions to use Gmail. And You can see why some admins would like to not give the access. I don't have access to anything. This is your spreadsheet, and you're just authorizing yourself to take this spreadsheet and interact with your own Google Drive. So when it gives you the authorization, that was probably more answer than you wanted. But if you hang out with me, you know that I code a lot of things, and you're going to get all these permission things. So I'm just asking you to please just say yes. Click on advance. Click on save. Oh my gosh, that screen drives me bananas. It's not really that it's unsafe, but that's what you gotta do. But this one actually went through the very painful process, and it took me 5 years to get it approved, but I got it approved. So it's an official app, so it makes it easier. Okay, good. You ready? You can show the sidebar if you want to, because then it'll show my name, so that's fun. And you want to just first, you want to set up the sheet. Now this sheet right here is blank. So if you'll just highlight any chunk of cells and do something to it so it looks different. So I'm just going to do the merge. It's right next to it's to the left of the centering button. Just going to merge it, and I'm going to get the paint can and make it yellow just so it looks different. So you're going to design what is it you want students to do. It's a table. I would argue almost all of your assignments we could organize real nicely in a table. I mean, you could at a very base level just, here's the questions, and make this wider, and they put the answers in there. Like, why not do it on a spreadsheet? Why not? So do anything that looks different, just so you realize you can copy per student. And then when you click set sheet, either in the menu or on the sidebar, what that's going to do is it's going to insert a sheet into the first position. So this is the way it needs to look. Is the first sheet is your roster, and the second sheet is your template. If you have other sheets, it's fine. They won't be in the same position anymore when you're done. But you just need to make sure your very first sheet is your roster, and your second sheet is the template. And thanks. As long as you have that, you don't have to do the setup sheet. You can do that manually, but it's there if you would like it. And then you're just going to click Run Template Tab. Oh, excuse me. Don't do that yet. You need to have some names. I demonstrate this stuff so often, everyone in the whole world's going to know who my brother and sister is. My dad and my mom. So just type a few names on there so that you have at least 5. It's not as exciting to only make 1 or 2. It's like, ooh, we did 30. And when you have, on the first tab is your roster, and on the second tab is whatever your graphic organizer is, just click Run Template Tab. Not anything fancy with the spreadsheet, it's just the regular Google Sheets spreadsheet. So now you can distribute this however you would share a spreadsheet, but you want to share it with edit access. Now sometimes I just use it for myself. So, you know, I'm tracking my mileage. So what I do is I create, you know, and it's some specific form I have to turn in. So I made the form look the way it's supposed to on the spreadsheet, where I got the date and the number of miles and where I was traveling to. And then it's already got my address and stuff that I have to do to submit for reimbursement. And then I made, instead of student names, I did January, February, March, April, May, June, July, right? So then I ran the template tab, and it made a copy of the mileage reimbursement thing 12 times. And so then I have them all in one spreadsheet, and I can keep track all year of all my mileage. And then I would just download as, you know, a PDF and turn it in. So, how'd it go? Easy, right?
It worked.
Okay. So now what I want to do is say, okay, well, what if I want to like I have 3 periods. I want to use this same template. I'm gonna use it next year, or I've created a different spreadsheet and I wanna run it through TemplateTab. So do you wanna full screen back maybe and watch me? Don't have to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the View menu and I'm gonna go to the Hidden Sheets. So what happens is when you run TemplateTab, it hides the roster and it hides the template. So I can just go to Template. It's gonna bring that back up. I'm gonna click on the tiny triangle. I'm gonna choose Copy To, and I'm gonna copy it to a new spreadsheet. Unless I have a spreadsheet where I already pasted my roster. I do that a lot. Like I make a brand new spreadsheet, I paste my roster, and then I'm like, oh wait, I need the template. So in that case, I send it to an existing spreadsheet that I had already started. So yeah, you're smart enough to figure this out. Do you have a spreadsheet? No? Then do a new one. So I'm gonna copy this into a new spreadsheet. Now it has taken that template from that roster tab and it has dumped it into a new spreadsheet. And then I will wait for it to finish running. And I'm gonna go to Add-ons. And I'm gonna go to TemplateTab. I'm gonna set up the sheet. And what's nice is because I did get it approved by Google. Do you notice I don't have to authorize it every time? That's the best part. So now I've got my new student names. Jack, Joe, Roscoe. Okay. And then I just go into the add-ons menu and I run TemplateTab again. So it makes it really easy to just send that over there. So why don't you try that? What I'd like you to do, so if you wanna make the zoom small again on the side, you're looking at your spreadsheet, you're gonna go to the View menu and find the Hidden Sheets. Is my Zoom just weird or something? View, Hidden Sheets, there, I don't know, want the template. Now, if you have your roster, you might want to copy your roster over to a new spreadsheet because you are more interested in getting the roster into the new one. So, whatever. But you're going to bring up the hidden sheet and click on the tiny triangle on the tab and go to Copy To and either choose New Spreadsheet or Existing Spreadsheet. And you just want to make sure that your first tab is your roster and your second tab is your graphic organizer. I'd love to do warm-ups like this. Like, I don't know. I just ask myself, do I want to open up a copy per student? I don't. That's just it. I don't. So I'm like, why don't we just all be in the same spreadsheet? Or the same Google.
Alice, I'm sorry. I seem to be lost.
Okay, tell me where you're at.
I made the copy of the template, and then I made a copy of the roster to paste in there. I don't know where they went.
Go to Google Drive. So just go to Drive.
But yours popped up right there.
Oh, you have to be quick.
Is that it? I'm just not quick.
You
Because
know,
I didn't copy yet anything. I didn't even get there.
Open spreadsheet.
Yeah, I did not. Okay, so I have to run it again? Is that it? I'm sorry.
No, just go to Google Drive and click on Recent. It made it. All this does is it doesn't make the spreadsheet when I click that blue link. It just pops it open in another tab. I do that all the time as I send it to a new spreadsheet or I send it to an existing spreadsheet and then I close the little dialog box. I'm like, dang it, I wanted the blue link. All the time. So then I go to the Google Drive and I just go to Recent. It's right there. I just made it.
I have the one. The first one I made.
Okay, then you didn't finish doing it.
Correct. That's where I got lost. I did not finish.
This one open. So were you able to go to View menu and go to the Hidden Sheets and you can see the template or the roster, whichever one you wanted?
I did, because now when I click view menu, they're both gone.
Okay.
There's nothing hidden anymore.
Tab at the bottom, you see where it says template?
Yes, yes, I do.
And we're gonna copy it to,
Okay, where did you get that? Template?
little triangle right on the tab.
Got it. I'm sorry.
I apologize, that's why we're doing this.
Copy to. There you go.
Use new spreadsheet.
Yep.
Not being like super quick and not paying attention, you can click the link to have it open the spreadsheet right now instead of having to go dig for it in your Google Drive.
There it is. Okay.
Okay. So now,
Thank you.
you bet. So now that your template's there, if I wanted to, I could go back to another one, you know, where I go, let me name this one because this is going to be bad. Copy 5,000 of the thingy. You know, back in this one, if I go to view and show the roster, I can copy it to an existing spreadsheet. So I'm just going to take the roster. Because a lot of times I have the graphic organizer. The roster is the hard part, right? So if I know where I've got the roster, I can send the roster over. So I'm like, I'm just going to click on recent. Like, here's the one that I just did. And I already have it open. So now you see I've got the template and the roster, but what's the problem? And the problem is that they're in the wrong order. I need the roster first and the graphic organizer second. So you can actually just take the tab and drag it. Did you know that? So grab the tab and you can drag it over. Just make sure the roster is in the first sheet and the template's in the second sheet. You don't have to do the setup sheet, but you do need to understand that I assume you have a header row. So you can't have any student names in the first row. So long as I have the roster in the first one and I have the template in the graphic organizer in the second one, I can just go straight to Run Template Tab. Okay, so now what inevitably happens is you get a new student or something, right? And what Google Sheets does not like, it gets very grumpy. It does not like to have two tabs with the same, does not like that. That's a problem. So I'm going to view, come on, being glitchy. I'm going to view roster. I'm going to view the template. I just want to double check that the roster is my first tab and the graphic organizer template is my second tab. On the first tab, I'm going to delete out students I already did. Now notice how I do this. I delete the row. I don't just delete their name. This is bad. Do you see how I do this? Oh, I don't want Roscoe anymore. If you delete it, like even if I come here, like I delete those, I think it's going to make 2, it's going to make 4. Just so you know, it'll make 4. Because when you delete it, this is kind of an advanced data idea, is that you have 26 columns and 1,000 rows, but it doesn't think that you do. What it does is it thinks you have a rectangle of data. So whatever your lowest row and whatever your farthest column is, that's what's activated and everything in between. So as soon as I activate it, if I typed in it and I delete it, it still exists. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it doesn't look like there's anything there, but it has a value of blank. So what you really have to do is if you want to get rid of them, you have to highlight the rows. You have to right click and delete the rows. Don't delete the names, just delete all the rows. And then I can put new ones. And then I can just run the template tab again. There's no problem with running template tab a bunch of times. You could just delete the roster and insert a new sheet and put new names. Just remember, no names in the first row. There's nothing special about when I do setup sheet and it inserts a roster sheet. There's nothing special about that. The code says, look at what's in column A, not the first row. Okay, so whatever's in column A is gonna do it.
A question again. So if a new student comes and you add them and you do it this way, that student will then just get a tab on the bottom with your other class that was already there?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. If I have one student that joins, what I do is we always have a kid who didn't do any work. There's always at least one, right? Usually. It's faster to just click on another student's tab and duplicate the tab. And I'm like, oh, well, Larry joined the class. So I just renamed the tab to Larry by hand. So, I mean, like, it's not that big of a deal to, like, you know, I had my template and I duplicate it and I put the kid's name on it. Except the fact that I don't want to, doing it once isn't a big deal. 30 times is a big deal. Like, I'm not typing every kid's name 30 times. I'm not, you know, that's tedious. That's what code is for. But one time, it's literally faster to just manually duplicate it and rename the tab than it is to go through and delete the roster rows. I mean, you have to unhide the roster sheet, delete the roster rows, put in the new names, and run it again. It's, yeah. I mean, I would only do that if I, like, needed a whole bunch more.
Alice, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Could you give us some more ideas of the kinds of math you would use this for? Because
For math?
Yeah, for math.
All right. Well, let me get a fresh spreadsheet. Before I do math and scare everybody off, my favorite is just to do crowdsourcing. So my friend teaches English in San Diego, and she says, okay, look, you are going to find all of the examples of irony from pages 1 to pages 10. Next student, you're going to find all the examples of irony on pages 11 to 20, right? And then they all have their own tab, and then they're going to crowdsource all this information. And now the class has all of the examples of irony in the whole book without having to dig through the whole book. And, you know, if you go do a Google search for volcanoes or whatever topic that is your unit, right? How many results come up when you Google search it? A lot. And one of the things that we want to teach students is to check for credibility. Like, why do you think this is a good source? What information did you get out of it? And how can you paraphrase this information without plagiarizing, right? It's time consuming to do that when you have 2 million results. So what we do is we do a divide and conquer. So even in math, you know, we want to shift our thinking from doing the thinking for the students. In an age of Google, I want them to look up things they can look up. And I need to teach them how to look up things, how to effectively find information, and how to evaluate if that information is true, right? So, you know, and that you do that by practicing. Like, you guys are gonna go to these websites, and so I divide and conquer. Like, you're gonna do these chunks of websites. You're gonna do from the Google search, and I divide it up where the kids are each responsible at looking at 3 to 5 sources and deciding if they are good sources of information, why they think it is or isn't, and what is paraphrase. What did you get out of it? And then we're all in the same spreadsheet. So then when they go to write their report on volcanoes, they have 30 pages of sources that they know have been, I don't want to say fact checked, but source checked. You know what I'm saying? Where kids have gotten some information and now that information pulled together. So what I would do in that case is I would freeze the first row and I would just say, like, website title, the URL, you know, is this credible? Why or why not? Who is the author? Right? The different questions that I might ask to prompt them through, you know, is this a good site? And then I do paraphrase number 1. And I give them some places to paraphrase. And then I would make these whiter, of course. Okay, this is not a how to do spreadsheets workshop, so I'm going to just go ahead and freeze the row and make the things whiter without necessarily explain that. But I create this table of how I want them to put their information. So now for math, it's not so much so weird that I'd want to have them, what are these terms? What websites? What I was doing a crossword. I was just trying to make for fun a crossword of math terms for geometry. And I found this website that had like a whole bunch of vocabulary words, and I copy and pasted them, and I just didn't like a lot of the definitions. Some of these are sketchy. So then I Googled search, define, parallel lines, and a bunch of websites obviously come up, and they all have a slightly different definition. I think that's really cool, is to have to like compare and contrast the definitions of the different terms. Like normally we just tell them the definition. And I would like to argue you should never tell them the definition. It's 2020. Stop telling kids definitions. They should look it up. They should find multiple places that give a different definition, compare and contrast, like which one of these definitions do you like the best and why, and now write your own definition after looking at these multiple ones that doesn't say exactly what those say. While slightly annoying to do, is gets them more into the content and they're having more empowerment around it. So, again, with the divide and conquer, or they're all doing the same ones, but I'm just going to do them all in the same spreadsheet. So I've created this graphic organizer where I'm asking them to look up stuff. And here's where you're going to put the information you found after you looked it up. And of course, then I go to the add-ons menu, I go to template tab, and I set it up. So that I can just paste my roster into that first column. Now you're like, Alice, where do I get this roster from? Oh, let me finish this one, right? Because I would run the template tab, obviously. Now I'm going to go to Classroom. I'm going to wait for it to load. Now you have a student information system that most likely will download and give you a roster in some funky format. But if you go into any assignment, open up any assignment in Google Classroom, any one of them, doesn't matter. I'm going to open up this assignment. Now I don't have grades in Google Classroom. I'll save that rant for another time. So I don't use this to get all my grades out of Google Classroom. I use where I click on the settings cog on any assignment to get my roster. This is how I get my roster. Someone explained to me why it's not on the People tab. That feels incredibly obvious. We would all want to put my roster in Google Sheets. It doesn't exist. So you got to like do the little settings cog and you just copy all your grades to Google Sheets, and then it gives you your roster. That's how I get it. Okay. I'm going to make this anyone with the link can view. These are all fake names, by the way. And I'm going to back up the end of the URL. So instead of it saying /edit, it says /copy. And I'm going to put this into the chat. Okay. So now if you click on that, it'll give you this spreadsheet. And I'm just going to teach you something that I do. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. It's what I'm going to do it first. So why don't you do it full screen so you can watch me, and then I'm going to redo it so that you can do it yourself. So what I have is I have their first name here in column B, and I have their last name in column A, and I want it to be first name, last name. So what I do is I say this equals, so I started with an equal sign, and then I'm gonna go click on the first name. So it's called cell referencing. So I'm gonna click on Argelia. It says B6, whatever's in B6. And so I'm gonna do the ampersand. That's concatenate, it's gonna smash things together. And I wanna take the first name and quotation, space bar, quotation. So I want a space. All your text has to be in quotations. And, so another ampersand. I want their last name. I made it too big. I'll do it again. Equals their first name and quotation, space bar, quotation, and their last name. When I push enter, it shows their name. Smashed together. And then this little blue square down in the corner, I pull this down, and you see it gives me my entire roster. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to let you, if you'd like to do this with me. I put the link in the, thanks Kathy. I put the link in the chat to this spreadsheet if you'd like to try it. And you're going to do equal sign. Click on the first name. And so ampersand, it's on the 7 key. And then I want quotation, space bar, quotation for the space. And the space has to be in quotes. And so go back to the ampersand on the 7 key. Click on the last name. Enter. And I'm going to drag this all the way. I went too far, it doesn't matter. I'm going to drag it down so I get the whole list.
Cool.
And there's one more level of complication to this. Well, a couple of them. Did you get to work? I see some concerned faces.
I got the first name to pop up, but then I missed how you get all of them to show up.
Okay, so what you have to do is when you click on a cell, when you single click, in the very bottom right hand corner, blue square, that's, you're gonna drag it down. Hold down on it and square down.
There they are. Thank you.
That right there is why you love Spreadsheet. So we have 2 problems, maybe more. I'll just start listing problems. Problem number 1, list of names is not in column A. It's not in row 2. Like, it's supposed to be in column A and skip the first row, but the list is supposed to start in row 2. This list is starting in row 6. It also has all this other nonsense that I don't need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all these names, copy, Control C, and I'm going to make either a new spreadsheet or a new tab. I don't really care. I usually just do a new spreadsheet because that one's all funked up. Let me start from scratch. Now here's the problem. Notice what happens when I paste. Watch this carefully. When I paste, it says, "What you talking about, Willis?" For those of you who are at least as old as I am. And so the problem is I pasted all those formulas. And it's like there is no, what happened here? These don't exist anymore. So I'm going to Control Z. So the trick is you have to paste special. So when you paste, you have to hold down the Shift key. Control Shift V. If you hold down the Shift key when you paste, it removes the formula. The formula is dead. It's gone forever. And gives you just the values. I do that a lot. I like to concatenate and like, I need this last name, comma, first name, not first name, comma, last. And I like use some formulas and I mix it around. And so, but now I have formulas. And so I copy it and then I control C, they paste it with the shift key.
I have a question. So if I wanted to do it reverse and I wanted a comma after the first, or I'm sorry, after the last name, how would that have to be in quotations?
It's the long way. Look at this. I've got first and last all smashed together, right? So I'm going to highlight these names. I am going, don't watch this, y'all, because we wanted it like this. Oh, and so then I'm going to do data, split text to columns.
Oh.
And what needs to be split is the space. It's a space that splits them. Understand, this is called a delineator.
Wow.
The delineator gets eaten. So the space will be eaten. So if it was last name, comma, first, and you wanted to split it up at the comma would be eaten and it wouldn't exist anymore, okay, just so you know. So I do space and it's gonna separate it.
Awesome.
Then what I do is say, okay, well, I want, this is a little secret that you don't know. It actually puts stuff into column C. Remember how I said before, if it's been activated, it's there, even if it doesn't look like it? I'm gonna just delete column C right now because I just know that when I do the split text to columns, it creeps into the next column and then it messes me up. So I'm just gonna get rid of it. You'll figure that out on your own. So now I'm gonna do equals, and in this case, instead of first name and space and last name, I'm gonna do last name and quotation, comma, space bar quotation. See the difference?
Yeah.
And I want the first name. So then when I pull down, I now have them all last, comma, first.
Where have you been all my life?
This is why we
Thank you.
a spreadsheet. Okay, I'm sorry, did you want first initial and their last name? Okay, I'm gonna do that one for you, just for fun. So this is now gonna equal left, the left character of their first name. And I do comma 1 because I want the left 1 character. And I want a period and a space. And I want their last name. And now you all know why the answer is always a spreadsheet. All right, so regardless, you are gonna figure out what format do you want all the student names, right? And if you used a formula to construct it the way that you wanted, you're gonna control Shift V when you paste it. Now I'm just gonna get rid of this one. I'm gonna delete it, I don't need it. What I could have done is back in the old one, I could have just added a new sheet. I could have Control Shift V'd, and then this one here that I got out of Google Classroom, I could have just deleted it. So that would have worked too. Whatever. The bottom line is, get the names into the first column, however you do it. And then I'm gonna add another sheet so I can make my graphic organizer. And then all I have to do is run the template tab. Now, the question about math, I like to have students obviously use spreadsheets because the answer to when am I ever going to use this is a spreadsheet. So I should have them regularly working in a spreadsheet. So I'm going to design a graphic organizer. One of my favorite things to do is to do Mad Libs math. Now, a lot of times you'll see me demonstrate the Mad Libs math and it builds in the different sheets, and that's when I make a copy per student. But since I'm going to put all the students in the same one, I'm actually just going to build this right here. So I'm just going to say a boy's name, a fruit, and a number. And then I'm going to paint. I'm not going to do a great job of this, just so we're clear. Just going to make a crude looking Mad Libs math. Who's Bob and why is he carrying 40 watermelons? If you're going to ask a stupid math problem, at least, meaning it didn't come from anywhere, you made it up, right? At least let the kids pick the numbers. At least let the kids pick the nouns. So I have them, they're going to put in there, we have Bob, he has watermelon, and he has 40 of them. Oops. Right? So then what I do is I would merge some cells together and I say this equals Bob and quotation is carrying quotation and 40 ampersand space quotation, and you got to learn to put your own spaces in there because you'll forget. And then you're like, dang it, why does it say like 40 watermelons with no space? Bob is carrying 40 watermelon, and then I got to put the S on there. Enter. And so what that allows me to do is when I take the word problem, whatever it is, I get the Mad Libs math here, and now I'm going to run my template tab. So I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to add a sheet. Let me go get my roster again here. Copy. Paste. Now I got to drag that tab over, right? Because the roster was second. I got to make it first. I just go in here to the template tab and I run template tab. So every student finds their tab. And what I love about this is that there's a lot of kids who never, ever see what represents them in the math book or pick your textbook. I was up in Barrow, Alaska, and they have a population of Native Americans in a very rural village. You've never heard of them, most likely, this particular village. And so literally they would probably have no chance of ever seeing their culture, their community represented in the textbook. And so the district did what I thought was the most beautiful thing ever. They got permission from the science textbook company to redo the textbook, where they redid the names and some of the examples, and they replaced the photos with local photos so that it would have context that the kids would care about. So we're not going to redo the whole book with this example, but in this way, since students can put whatever name they want, they can choose a name and they can choose it. Like, I don't even know what dragon fruit is. I think it's a thing, but someone knows what it is and it's their favorite. And it makes them excited to see dragon fruit in their math problem. I had many students, named Cha, and, then they get to pick whatever their favorite number is. Just so you know, they will use 69, and we're just going to pretend they didn't. Just look away. Just look away. You know what I'm talking about. I just laugh. But then what I get here is we're all in the same spreadsheet, but because I let them pick the nouns and the numbers, think of how you could do this also for English. Then everyone actually has a different math problem. So then they're not just copying each other. And then my whole thing is always, shoot, photo math will solve the problem for you. That's not what I care about. I want to know, what is your strategy? This should have been on my template, of course. But I set up several boxes where I merge some cells together and I fill them in yellow, and I ask them for some number sense. So what do you notice? What do you think about it? What would happen if? And I set up just some ways for them to think through the math problem, and then they're all in the same spreadsheet so we can learn from each other, but it's then it's not just go look at someone else's and they go, oh yeah, I got the same answer. There's no critical thinking in check your work, but compare and contrast there is. So if they've got different numbers, different things, and then I'm asking them to explain their strategy and some thinking things, and then I ask them to go look at other students. How does their response compare to yours? Now we're having some good mathematical dialogue.
So when you do this kind of layout, or you do all your tabs, the advantage of, you're still going to have to view every single tab. There's no place that it aggregates all the information, but at least you're not waiting for stuff to open and close.
You could have it aggregate all the information. So, you know,
Probably not if you're a beginner though.
so hard. So I just added a new tab. I'm going to call it answer sheet. And I'm going to say this equals I mean, you're still on each tab. There's a way that I would do it, but I'm like, here's theirs. And this equals, then I click on the next one. Get a parent volunteer to help you. You can go through and say it equals what's on each individual student sheet, so you can see all their responses at once. But now you got me thinking I should just add a feature, because it would be really easy for me to just generate this, where you would just tell it what cell do you want. Like you'd say, I want E3.
That would be lovely.
That would be a nice code.
Would be.
Out of my league.
Yeah, 7A. What I like about this though is doing the answer sheet is if it's not in the template tab, I've made them a spreadsheet with multiple tabs that they work through. Before I copy it for every student, I make the answer sheet. Oh, by the way, I always hide the answer sheet. I don't want them to see it. I make the answer sheet where it's pulling things from each of the individual tabs. And then I don't have to click on all of the tabs. But you can see that the whole thing's already loaded, so there's no load time as I click from tab to tab, unlike individual documents. But more than that, you know, I have them do this, and now when we're on a Zoom or a Google Meet or whatever, we go through and click on each of the students, you know, some of the students' tabs, and we have our conversation and our number talk, or just our conversation, if it's not math, around student work. And we're all in the same one, and it's easier to look at different examples. I just want everyone to.
I was thinking about, like you had said, you do use slides and stuff, but actually, if you're trying to have a class discussion, this would be actually probably be better than slides.
There is good reasons to do either or.
Okay.
I agree with you. One of the things that I like to do on my template is I create spaces. I'm going to do them light purple for feedback. So it can be peer feedback, be teacher feedback. And I just made one. So I merged the cells. Why did I put this on my lap? I merged the cells and then I made it purple. But see, I can actually paste that merged cell. So I can do like a lot of them. What we might want to do is then come over and have like, okay, everybody look at this one. Or as I'm looking through all of the sheets, I'm like, well, this one was particularly interesting. And I copy this one sheet to a new spreadsheet. I can pull it out and just use it on that. But for me to like see what some common mistakes and common threads are, I start with that and, you know, get them to give you some initial information that you can build when you get together to do a Zoom or a Google Meet, whatever, is that you want to have the kids do the talking and error analysis and things like that. Those are really great activities. Note taking is a terrible reason to get together.
So in third grade, the most they typically write is a paragraph.
Right.
So there's no reason why they couldn't type a paragraph.
Not only is there no reason that they couldn't, I totally would. So I would, you know, I would just get in there. I would make a bunch of them merged. Like this, I'd make it yellow. And then I center them and I'd turn on the word wrap, make it a little bit larger. And then what I want to do is I want to merge some cells for the feedback. And it can be feedback from other students, or here's some feedback. And then what I want is make this light green. They get feedback and then they have to rewrite it. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do this, but you could make, all right, I'll make it purple because that's where I'm going to put feedback, right? And I can make a bunch of purple feedback boxes. And so having students do that peer evaluation and peer edits, I'm always really into. All right, we had a question. I saw Pinto's name. So the question was, can first graders do this? Christine Pinto has first graders, or kindergarten, excuse me. She has 4-year-olds in pre-K write spreadsheet formulas. So they absolutely can do this. One of the things that we want them to be able to do is to recognize their name. So just finding their name on the tab at the bottom, I just make the cells bigger and I make the font bigger. %. First graders can do. All right, the last thing that I was going to show you is I already have this set up, sort of. I have this alicekeo.com/reuseGC, and I would like you to try and set this up for each of your Google Classroom classes. And I'm working on adding some more features, so make this at the last minute. Right now I'm trying to add a parent view into this so that it will automatically create you a parent view. So I'm going to go to add-ons. I am going to, excuse me, I'm doing that, but I need to wait for it. There it is. All the way at the bottom, it just takes like a minute for it to load. It says reuse GC. I'm going to show the sidebar. Continue. Wow. In the sidebar, I'm going to choose setup. I'm going to import my classes. And so what you're going to do is use the alicekeo.com/reusegc per class. So for each class you have, you're going to make one of these. Come on. There it goes. You just got to be patient. If you push the button, don't push it twice. Just give it some time. I'll do 15 of them. The basic reason for alicekeo.com/reusegc is so you can reuse assignments from last year. You can reuse 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 at a time instead of 1 at a time. But I built in a bunch of other cool features too. So I have this math class with my fake students. I'm going to set the class. So now this is the spreadsheet for that class. So you're going to save this. And you'll reuse it all the time. And when I go to get assignments, I want you to see is that I can make different kinds of assignments. It'll create you a blank assignment. You're like, Alice, why would I create a blank assignment from your spreadsheet? Because if you create the assignment from the spreadsheet, then my spreadsheet can control the assignment and it will also grade it for you. So I like to make, this is where I make my assignments, is here. And if you come down, you'll notice I have collaborative slides, which everyone knows I love. I have push slides. So collaborative slides makes a blank Google Slides, but it's just blank. And it automatically puts it into Google Classroom for you. Push slides does the same thing, except they're not blank. It puts the students' names on the slides. So check this out. I click push slides. And I am going to create the assignment. I think it's going to be mad at me because I first have to run the roster. Okay. Okay, sorry, push slides doesn't do that. The roster slides does. I messed that up. What this does allows you to push slides to student documents. So let me go back. I messed that up. It's cool though. I gotta remember what all I have on here. I want to go to assignments. Show roster. So the show roster is going to put your roster in here. So that part's cool. And then I have the roster to slides. So that's going to put an assignment in Google Classroom with each student's name on one of the slides. But then if you go down one more, it has TemplateTab. Okay, do you see how it put their names in there? That's for slides. But if I do the template tab, you can see it has this little pop-up down here in the bottom. It's saying it's putting every student's name into this spreadsheet. So it creates the spreadsheet for you for template tab where it puts the roster in it. Just wait, it's going to show up like magic. Make sure that there's no pop-up here. Come on. Why didn't this work? Oh, well, I see that I need to fix that. The roster showed up on the one that said graphic organizer. It's fine, doesn't matter. And then I make my graphic organizer, but it put the students' names in there automatically. I just, I have a typo, but it's still there. And then I can run I just use the template tab from the add-on menu. Questions?
How do we get the add-on to show up on our add-ons tab?
It will never show up on the add-on tab unless you go to alicekeeler.com/reusegc. It is a bounded script and it is specific to that spreadsheet, and it will only show up when you're looking at that spreadsheet.
Okay, because the Alice Keeler template tab does show up for me.
That's correct. That one's
Okay.
different.
Okay. All right.
I only have 2 add-ons that I've bothered to submit to Google. It's an unpleasant process, so I just don't.
So in order to use that, you want to have your spreadsheet open, basically get that, add it, and it'll only work for that one.
Yes. Yes. So if you come to my Google Classrooms, like any of them that I have, I don't want to do that one. Do this one.
Like I said, it doesn't have to be a spreadsheet. It could be anything, right? Or does it have to be a spreadsheet?
Well, the alicekeeler.com/reusegc makes a spreadsheet. That's what it is. That's what I was trying to avoid. What you're seeing here is that I am setting up, this is my new workshop for Google Forms. Well, I've done it before. So what I did is I reused all of the assignments using my alicekeeler.com/reusegc. And then what I do is I just drag them to the topic that it goes in. Where's my spreadsheet? Oh, here it is. So then what I do is I make a material where I link to the spreadsheet and I leave it as a draft because I do like all my classroom stuff using the spreadsheet. It'll take a little time for you to get used to it, but then you're gonna love it. It'll be amazing. I just run everything through here. It auto grades for me. So then when I open an assignment, they should have all the scores in there. Well, that one, yeah. No one's turned this one in, so no one got scored. No kidding. Let's see if we can find what's okay. So I think this should be, you see how they already have credit? I didn't have to type it in. I may have to return it and do feedback, but I don't have to type 4 million times. I love that.
Woohoo!
So Is that it? Any other questions?
Super cool. Amazing.
So, and the best part is the template tab is one of the 2 things that I have submitted to Google, so you can use it to your heart's content. It's in the menu all the time. Enjoy. It's free.
Awesome. When are office hours? Did I miss it? That's today?
I had office hours a little bit earlier. I'm going to turn off the recording.